What is that stately building standing in the evening's twilight? No one else, hurrying to beat the shadows home, seems to notice the edifice where only yesterday was a weed-infested empty lot. You can't take your eyes off the windows which stare down at you from under Gothic arches. This repository of all things wondrously strange and wickedly sinister has chosen you to peruse the uncanny. My name is Arthur Penniman. I find myself in the peculiar position of the current custodian of these unhallowed stacks. I welcome you to the Night Library. Welcome back, or perhaps welcome for the first time. I'm Arthur Penniman, Night Librarian. Somewhere between midnight and morning, when most are asleep, or pretending to be, I sort the unsorted and file the forgotten. Here in the Night Library, every story begs to be shelved, even the ones that were never meant to be read. Tonight's entry was discovered sealed inside a black envelope, hidden behind insulation in the wall of an old home in Dorset, Vermont. It's labeled The Apology Jar. Let's begin. The summer when my grandfather passed, I missed his funeral because of a nasty illness I couldn't shake for months. It plagued me more than the guilt I felt for missing it, or the family turmoil it caused when I inherited his house. A creaking, crumbling place packed with more dust than memories, lights that flickered as if the wiring of the house had been chewed to threads by critters living in every dark corner of this dwelling. Paint worn in patches on the walls that revealed the dry bones of the house barely supporting its own weight. Reminiscing through memories as I took everything in on my first day, I remember that he'd always kept the attic above the garage locked. Said it was full of old tools and bad wiring. I'd always been curious as a boy. Tempted to look, even sneaking off to try the door handle, in hopes it would be left unlocked, but never being able to quench my curiosity more than peeping through the keyhole. But on the second night there, I found the key tucked behind a loose brick in the fireplace, as if he wanted it to be found. Eventually, to my disappointment, it lived directly up to the description my grandfather had told me over the years. There wasn't much up there to have filled this expectation of amazement I'd hoped I'd find in here as a child. Maybe it was the feeling of doing something I wasn't supposed to that gave me the jolt of freedom and adventure I longed for. But all that met my gaze as I swung the door open was a few rusted boxes, a moth-eaten coat, an accumulation of dust-covered junk, hoarded like memories forgotten. But in the far corner I spotted something under a rotted rocking horse. I found it. A glass jar, old, fogged, sealed tight with wax. There was a label in faded ink. I'm sorry. Inside were dozens, maybe hundreds, of slips of paper, handwritten. Some were familiar in tone, others not. Sorry I forgot the milk. Sorry I yelled. Sorry I never said goodbye. And then, chills crept down my spine as I unfolded and read something that I don't think was meant to be read, sealed and forgotten with purpose. I felt that nagging guilt I had as a child doing something I knew was wrong. Sorry I buried it. Sorry I didn't lock the basement. Sorry I let her out. Some of the handwriting I recognized, my grandfather's, but others looked like they were written by different hands. Cursive, block letters. Some were frantically scribbled quickly, while others were pressed deeply into the white paper, ink pooling around each letter. One even looked like a child's. With the gagging of guilt and my spine ice cold, I grabbed the jar and sprinted away from the attic, sealing the space back to its state of hidden mystery with a lock of a key. I placed the jar on the kitchen table as I began to clean and organize the rooms. But every passing walk through the kitchen, my curiosity built, eyes lingering on the jar. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I felt more guilty than I thought. But as I finished dinner, staring at the jar, contemplating, I wrote, "Sorry I stole the money from Mom's purse." I folded it, dropped it in, and retreated to the living room, heart pounding with sudden reprieve of tension. That night, the light stopped flickering. Just stopped. So the next day, I wrote again. Sorry I lied to Jenny about the trip. Each second of labor I put into the house after, I couldn't stop thinking of the jar. I felt lighter and more alive. So did the crumbling house around me. That night I slept soundly for the first time in months. I was electric, energized, feeling for once in my life burdenless, but there was still a nagging in my chest that I had to keep writing. So I continued, each day, dropping something I had held tightly to me over the years, feeling lighter with each note. Sorry I hit that dog with my car. My cough disappeared. Sorry I wish Grandpa was dead. The mirror in the hall stopped warping my reflection as I passed by it. I got addicted to the relief. But then the notes began changing. I'd find new ones in the jar written in my handwriting, but I hadn't remembered writing them. But I felt relief reading them. Until I unfolded something that gave me the same chills in my chest as I had felt in the attic days prior. Sorry I let her in. Sorry I answered the knocking. Sorry I looked at her face. I didn't know what it meant, not then. But the more I read them, the more real it all started to feel. The pressure was rebuilding, stronger than before, the sickness coming back with the strength of a flu. I stopped writing. I taped the jar shut. I put it back in the attic. The days that followed, I felt weaker by the minute, heavier. Lying about for most of the day was the only option. Everything had returned to its faded dilapidation, as if all the work I had done on the house was nothing more than a swift brush of a floorboard. I slept worse every night, waking up to the crawling of rodents moving between floors of the house through the walls. The scraping sounds echoed in tandem with thoughts that spiraled in my head as it lay on the pillow. One night, I managed to doze deeply off some cough syrup I had bought on my now only weekly trips outside of the house. I slept peacefully, a reprise from the eternity of insomnia I had grown accustomed to. But just as I drifted away from everything into my dreams, I was awakened, groggy and dazed, drugged from the purposeful misdosage I gave myself. I heard a muffled noise I couldn't quite process. my head pounding with pressure, almost in tandem with the rhythm of this elusive but powerful sound, repeating over and over. I sat up in the creaking bed as if adrift on a life raft floating in the dark. I listened intently, and that's when I heard it clearly. Deafening. Frozen in fear and dazed, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, my mind racing at the possibility of trying to grasp a reality of it that wasn't so frightening. Then, louder, I heard it again. I mustered the strength to creep off of my bed to the door of my room. My whole body was trembling as I pressed my ear to the door. The pressure had built so strongly, but so did that feeling of curiosity. I heard it again, this time farther away. I opened my door slowly and crept toward the sound, cowering low and hunched as I walked through the dark. I felt more and more pressure as the sound led me through the kitchen into the garage, and I stared at the attic door. My ears began to ring as if the pressure had filled them. I continued, almost tranced, as I walked toward the now eerily silent door. I placed my hands on the now still doorknob. I didn't want to open it. Every cell in my body screamed, "Don't!" Then, like something borrowed my voice, I whispered, "I'm sorry." I'm sorry for who finds this. I couldn't stop. I desperately tried. Do not go into the attic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The Night Library does not confirm nor deny the truth of its stories. But if you've ever felt a sense of relief after confessing in the dark, perhaps you've already made your own deposit. This file is now archived. Now there is no shame or guilt in tuning out now and finding your own reprise, like locking this away in an attic, like the grandson. But if your curiosity builds, just like his, then prepare for the wait. Some burdens cannot be seen, or maybe choose not to be, and yet we feel them, anchored to us, holding us in place. Tonight's second entry is filed under Sleep Disturbance, Persistent. Submitted anonymously, but the marks it left are easy to find. Let us begin. It started as pressure, not pain, just a weight, laying heavily on my chest throughout the day, but it was bearable until the night. Every night at 3:12 a.m., I'd wake up with something sitting on my chest. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't scream, just felt it, heavy, cold, wrong. I couldn't lift my head to see it either, but I could feel its hair running along my arms as it swayed slightly back and forth as it crouched on my chest. I tried to seek medical help, even with scans and second opinions. Doctors just called it sleep paralysis. They gave me pamphlets, told me to try lucid dreaming. But no matter what medicine or homeopathic avenues I tried like clockwork every night, the thing would appear. It got worse every time. Scraping with sharp nails on my arms, slow and painful bites onto my chest and shoulders. I even did a sleep study because of these injuries, but it was inconclusive. They couldn't explain the bruises, or the finger-shaped marks, or the bite. Their theories kept evolving. I was injuring myself in my sleep or non-noticeably during the day. There could be rodents living in my apartment. I felt truly alone and trying to find answers, to find a way to make it stop. I tried one night to view it. I stacked my pillows high so I was scrunched, looking at my body. The regret I feel for making it seen. There it was, crouched, frail and thin, long red-stained hair, with piercing eyes, illuminated by the slight light of my digital clock. I stared deeply in its eyes, unable to move, but watching it creak its head side to side, observing me, grinning, but with a sad expression. The weight was crushing. I no longer felt it just in my chest, but all over me. It felt like an endless nightmare, but then the sleep came, and so did the light of the morning. I was determined now more than ever. I started sleeping upright, in a chair, then standing, leaning against the wall. Sometimes, I tried not to sleep at all. But no matter what I did, it found me. No matter where. It wasn't on my chest anymore. It was on me. It whispered once. Just once. You know why. I stopped going outside. Stopped answering the phone. Every night I counted the minutes until 3:12. Trying to prepare myself for it, but every time it appeared, the same fear again, the same panic coursed through me. And then one morning, there was a story. Local news. A pedestrian was found dead, left in the woods just off of a back road. Possible hit and run. Police were asking for leads. They said someone had left an anonymous tip. That night, the weight came early. It didn't sit. It clung. It pressed into my ribs, my jaw, my soul. I couldn't breathe, but I knew what it was. I remembered the road, the scream, the thud, how I never looked back. Now the weight isn't on my chest. It's in me. It moves when I do. It knows. I don't sleep anymore. I just wait. Guilt doesn't vanish. It burrows. It waits, and sometimes when the night is still enough, leave something behind. Confessions come in many forms, a jar, a bruise, a silence we pretend not to hear. But here in the night library, we don't judge. We simply file them, and this file is now archived. Sleep lightly, listener, and if something knocks, don't answer. Until next time, thank you for your patronage to The Night Library.